purpose of this space is to create a very safe environment for people to share a moment of their lives. Welcome to the show, and I'm going to open by sharing with you an answer that I gave to people that found out about the show and then applied to speak. A lot of them say, what do you want us to talk about? And I tell them, well, I want to know the why behind your why. And they go, what does that mean? I was like, well, most people say, you're doing something and this is why, this is why you do it. Well, I want to know what caused that why to happen. And then I was finally asked, after saying that for hundreds of times, then what's your why behind your why? And then they caught me off guard because I never really thought of it.
Centrally located in the Richmond Auto Mall since 1984, Richmond Honda features a large selection of Honda certified pre-owned vehicles. Inside the showroom, Honda's newest models are displayed for viewing, and the dealership is staffed 7 days a week for financial consultation. Foodie World presents Philippine Street, featuring a large selection of Filipino foods, from imported non-perishable products to both packaged seafood and locally caught and very much alive. Foodie World is 75,000 square feet of worldly groceries situated in North Richmond. Located 1 block north of St. Paul's Hospital, Downtown Denture Center features complete and partial teeth restoration options. With 35 years experience, Anthony Chung offers mobile services and emergency repair consultation 24 hours a day. Downtown Denture Center, just off Nelson at 970 Burrard in the lobby of the Electra Building. Open 7 days a week, Kingsgate Mall features shops for both men's and women's clothing, women's fashions and accessories, and footwear for everyone, prescription glasses and contact lenses, as well as shopping for his and her jewelry. Kingsgate Mall on East Broadway at Kingsway.
Matatagpuan sa 104 and 138 na may higit sa 300 sasakyan, brand new and pre-owned, ay pwede niyong pagpipilian. Bago ka pa sa bansa, wala ka pang credit score, walang problema. Marami kaming selection from all makes and models, and all trade-ins are welcome. Higit pang impormasyon sa sirmitsubishi.com.
So I actually gave it, I pondered this, sat in front of this person for 10 minutes in silence, trying to think about this. And then I gave them the answer. And then a couple of days later, I met up with another gentleman, and he asked me exactly the same question, and then I refined it a little bit. And when someone else asked me, I'm going, this is a test from someone up top that I really gotta get this answer down. And it goes something like this. A few years ago, more than a few is what, 3? Okay, many years ago, I was in a pretty dark space in the sense that I was going to work for the sake of working, for chasing after the almighty dollar. And then on weekends, just numbing myself with alcohol and substance abuse to survive all the pressure that I put upon myself. And it was a really dark space, and I didn't know how to get out, because why would I want to get out? So all I did was just aim down. I went further and further down the rabbit hole. Then about 5 years ago, in the world that I was in, to give you a better frame, it was like the nightlife and entertainment industry. So you're just going out and you're partying, and people are putting on these beautiful masks to hide all of the pain that they're behind, and we're numbing ourselves just to survive. Now, if you can call that an existence, when I told the story the first time, I said I was existing. When I told the story the second time, I realized what I was doing was escaping. I didn't want to deal with anything. I was just sitting there numbing myself and then going further and further down the rabbit hole because I truly believed no one would understand, no one cared, and I just got used to it. At the beginning, there was a lot of pain, and then as time went on, I just got used to it. Then about 5 years ago, a friend of mine posted up on Facebook, and I looked at her and I go, wow, you look really happy. And I asked her what happened, and she got out. She got out of hell. And I was very curious, and I go, well, can you tell me what you did? And she gave me her story. And at that very moment, I realized if she could get out, I might be able to get out too. And then I asked her, so what did you do? And then we really had this heart-to-heart. And it was heart-wrenching hearing what she had to go through. But she wanted out. And at that point in time, I decided I wanted out too. So she gave me, in the dark hell that I was in, that I created in my own mind, a brief glimpse of light, and I held on to it. I reached out, held on to it, closed my eyes, and told myself, just believe, start your walk, and you will get out. You gotta believe, and you gotta get out. That's taken 5 years. Now, by telling you this story, I'm not telling you my story is right or wrong. I'm not telling you that your story is wrong, my story is right. I'm not telling you that I'm better than you. I'm not. What I am saying, though, is if you're in this space, if you think that you're just stuck, you don't know the way out, that you feel that you're all alone, and you don't know where to go, my role here is to try and give you that glimmer of light, give you that little bit of courage to say, you can get out. And it's up to you to make that choice. And then I realize as I tell the story to you now, I can metaphorically say that this space here that I'm creating is like a lighthouse, it's like a beacon, because only people that resonate with my story will say, hey, I can get out too. But by putting 5 or 6 different people with all different stories, that's 5 or 6 different glimmers of light, 5 or 6 different examples of courage that can hit different people throughout this entire year. And that's why I do what I do. All the stories presented by the speakers are personal in nature, and some of them can encroach on dark topics as addiction, abuse, self-harm, and you may be triggered by this. And if you are triggered by it, there's a beautiful lounge in the back. You can go there, give yourself a timeout, ground yourself, and then when you're ready, you can come back and join us. So, with that, now that I've taken some time, I'm going to put on the host hat, and we'll get the show started. In my journey, the dysfunctional beliefs that I had in the past, when I wasn't enough, I couldn't excel, I wasn't this, you're never good enough. I remember bringing home a math test. It's 100%. And I showed it to my mom, and she goes, why couldn't you do better? And I'm like, what do you mean? Just like it's a perfect score. She goes, you didn't get the bonus question. And this is the environment that I was in. You're sitting there, and you're bred in this environment where everything that I knew up to this point in time, I am this. Looking back, this is what defined me. This is what made me. And I remember when I got into my adult life, when I was doing nightclub promotion, that people knew who I was. And I thought that was great until I wanted to escape that persona. You're walking around, it's like, oh, no, hey, that's the blue-haired Asian guy. You go talk to him because he gives you access. He has access. He has this. He can do this. But that's not who I want to be. So when I finally got sick of Vancouver, I flew off to Europe just to see if the rest of the world was as cold as Vancouver is. Because, to give you some quick frame of that, every time I looked at a attractive girl, a single guy, I'd look at them and they'd give me the big WTF, what are you looking at? To stare back, and I go, I didn't even do anything. I just smiled. And it's happened over and over and over again. And I go, the rest of the world can't be like this, can it? So I went to go explore, and it wasn't like that. I landed in London, and I remember got off the plane, took the train in central London, got off, went up, smiled at a lady, and she gave me this really weird look, and she smiled back, and then I realized I was wearing this helmet at that time. So I took the helmet off, put it away, and then tried it again, and got a much more pleasant response, but nonetheless, they smiled, and they engaged. And then I realized, as I progressed in my trip, that I felt like I was a different person because no one here knew who I was. And I came back and I told the story to my coach, and then she goes, why do you treat this person as an alter ego? Like, this is Superman and this is regular Winston. Why do you do that? You're the same guy. I'm like, no, I'm not. She goes, what could you do there that you couldn't do here? And I realized I let my past define me. And it took me a long time, and I still haven't made that disconnect. But I believe my next speaker, Wendy Foster, has, and I invite her to the stage to share her story.
My name is Jeevan Bath. Suki Bath has been selling quality pre-owned vehicles for 37 years. All of our vehicles come with a certified inspection report, and history reports are available for all vehicles. All of our sales staff is fully licensed. Visit sukibathmotors.com today.
Foodie World has 75,000 square feet of imported and domestic products, with a large selection dedicated to our Filipino kababayans, with an in-house butcher, variety of seafood, and produce from around the globe. Open every day until midnight. Foodie World, 1 block east of number 3 Road off Sea Island Way in Richmond.
Oh, wow, that's a bright light. That's still a bright light. Hello, everybody. My past does not define me. We heard tonight a lot of stories about being invisible, not being seen, not being heard, being crushed, not only physically, but emotionally, physically. We've heard about being going against our own values for the love of somebody else. I think inside of us, we all have a little bit of pain, and some of us more than others. Even tonight, as I was coming down here, walking down the street, I saw a man sitting on the street. He had a long hair and a long gray beard. He was bundled up in his sleeping bag. He had a cigarette hanging from his mouth. And he looked cold, and he was talking away. He looked actually quite happy in his little world. And I couldn't help but think, that could be me. When we look at people, we have sometimes an instant judgment that we're not even aware of. Like, oh, he's homeless. Oh, he's a bum. Maybe he's a drunk. And we're not even aware that we say these things and think these things about people around us. And there's so many things, Paul said it tonight, that there are invisible in us. And for me, one of those things is a mental health issue. More than one. And one of the things that brought me up here is that I really need to tell my story, because it's not just my story. And there are people who cannot share the pain that they have inside, and they suffer silently. If you look around at your table right now, there's about 4 or 5 of you at a table. Statistically, 1 in 5 people will suffer mental health issues in their lifetime. So if you look around at your table, 1 of you right now has something going on. Maybe you've shared it, maybe you haven't. But unfortunately, there's a lot more people that haven't reported anything, and they're terrified to do so. Sometimes when I share my story, women will come up to me in tears because it touched something in them or gave them permission to say something for themselves. Not that my boss will fire me, not that I'm broken, not that I don't matter, because everybody does matter. And it starts out, as Shannon said, when we're little, we're full of joy and playfulness. Everything is about our world of curiosity. Somehow, as we get older, that gets taken away a little bit. Don't do this. You can't do that. You're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not pretty enough. You're too weak. You're too strong. You're too big. You're too small. No wonder we get confused. What can we do with all that as little children? So as we go along in our lives, we get broken down a little bit more. Sometimes we forget who we are. And sometimes we do, as it was said here tonight, we numb ourselves with alcohol or drugs or sex or gambling or coffee or shopping. One of my mentors, Dr. Gabor Mate, says he's addicted to buying classical music CDs. I thought that was a pretty cool addiction. I'd like to trade that one. I too have suffered from addiction. Alcohol was a substance that allowed me to escape my pain, just as what was said was here tonight. The problem that I was trying to escape was me, and everywhere I went, there I was. And it got harder and harder to escape, and I didn't want to be here anymore. And I tried to get rid of myself. It didn't work, because every time I turned around, there I was again. So not that long ago, I found myself in a hospital room in Langley. And the first thing that went through my head when I woke up is, damn, I failed again. I can't even get this fatal plan to work. And I was devastated. I had tubes coming in and out of my body. I had taken so many sleeping pills and drank so much wine that I couldn't even believe that I could see people in front of me, let alone feel what was going on in my body. And my next thing was, well, now what? Now I have to go home. Now, unlike, living on the street or having a tough, hard life, I have a pretty good life. I have a wonderful husband who's in the audience here tonight. His son and daughter-in-law are beside us. I have a great home. We take care of my in-laws. I'm pretty healthy. What the hell? But going home to that, to me, was terrifying. Because I'm letting everybody down. They would be better off without me. This is how I talk to myself. When I did go home, that's not what I got. They called a family meeting, and my daughter came up from Victoria. And they sat around. I'm sitting there shivering and just waiting for the ball to crash and someone to tell me, you have to leave, or we're going to put you on the psych ward, or you need to do a lot of work before you can be part of this family again. Instead, what I got was love, compassion, understanding, even though they had no idea what I was going through. Mental health issues can create havoc in our lives. It can start out like it did with me, with being super shy and deciding, discover alcohol when I'm 16. All of a sudden, I don't feel quite so shy. That went on for quite a few years. No problem. Alcoholism in my family, no problem. Doesn't affect me. Sexual abuse in my family, yes, did affect me. We don't need to go there. Dealt with that before. Abandonment issues, still, my husband can attest. I sometimes go into those. A lot of these things are learned behaviors, and we deal with them in different ways. When the pain gets so bad inside, and as Paul was talking about with his accident, that's what it feels like to be in emotional pain. That's what the PTSD feels like. That's what panic attack feels like. An elephant is standing on your throat and you can't breathe. And yet the only elephant there is yourself. So when I have these mental health issues, depression, anxiety, panics, it goes on and on over the years. This time in the hospital was my actual third attempt at taking my own life. I thought, geez, my father got it right when he did it years ago. But he had a gun. It's not funny, but I have to make light of it so I can tell you the piece without going into a bunch of craziness. When I was given a diagnosis, and I hate the word, just like mental illness, it's just awful. When I was diagnosed with a term called borderline personality disorder, not full-blown, One part of me laughed and thought, great, I'm not crazy after all, or at least if I am, there's a name for it. And the second later was, oh my God, I will be stigmatized for the rest of my life. I really didn't know what to do. And then I thought, well, there's two choices. I can either let it take me down, or I can stand up and be the voice. Learn about this as much as I can. Help as many people as I can. Share my story. 10 minutes, can't really share a whole lot, but you're getting the gist of it. My whole point is that when we stand up like we are today and share our stories, some of them are very sad, some of them are very happy, some of them are in between, things that we don't talk about. Sex is something we don't talk about, especially if it's injured us. Relationships in certain ways, or staying when you're in an abusive relationship. All of these things weigh on our hearts. I made a commitment to myself to never stuff my feelings again. Man, that was a tough commitment. Because now when it bubbles up, I know better. If I don't deal with what's there and learn these new tools and skills that I now have, I know where I'm going to end up. And one of these days, I won't get away so lucky. I will succeed in my plan. So what I do now is I share my story, especially with women, and I've worked a lot with children, to express who they really are. If they're angry, to say so. Don't cover your emotions. It's okay to cry. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to get angry. I'm learning about that one. And when we do, we allow others to do the same. So today I stand up here proud. I've worn all these masks. I've been on the bottom. 3 times for rock bottom is enough for me, so I think I'll stand up. And this time I refuse to get kicked back down by my own boot. And just take in the love and support that I have. Share my story. Hear others' story. It just draws on the fact that we really are connected. And as much as we have our little tools in front of us with our phones and our computers and all that great technology we have, something that we are missing is this connection with each other. And when we do connect through story, something magical happens. We get permission to be ourselves. We get permission to be funny, to be sexy, to be strong. All those things that we hide down. We don't want to be too this or too that. I don't want to be too big or too small. It's really crazy making when you think about it. We're all perfect in our imperfection. And when we embrace that, we shine our light for everybody. When my light shines, it gives you permission to shine yours, or whatever that is for you. When you pass it on, somebody else does. And that's what makes this world a great place. We focus on this, on loving each other, on seeing us for who we really are. Like Winston said about noticing that person and realizing that how important it is for them to be noticed. They didn't want the money. They just want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be understood. I think we all have that in common. And all it takes sometimes is a smile, or a hug, or a story. Sometimes a kick in the butt. My husband can attest to that. Can't do it on my own sometimes. But I'll keep getting up, and I'll keep showing up. And I encourage you to do the same. And thanks for listening to my story.
Thank you. Wendy Foster, everyone. And I invite Paul Henksel to the stage to share his story.
Thank you, Winston. Who else loves this guy? Move this out of my way so I don't trip. Have you or anyone you know gone through tragedy or difficult challenges? As I share my story with you, my hope is that you can visualize and feel what it's like to move from surviving to thriving, and the steps I took to do that. The day was February 9th, 2010. It was also my son's 16th birthday. I was working as a supervisor in a sawmill, and 3 hours into my shift, I had to unjam a giant log that got stuck. The logs we were cutting are called cants. Cants are 14 inches thick, 10 to 22 feet long, and weigh at least 1,000 pounds each. It was my job to keep production moving. I made a decision to crawl into a tight, confined space to manually free up this cant that was stuck on edge against a large steel beam. This created a massive wall of wood in behind this cant. As soon as this cant was freed, someone turned on the chains, and I was immediately being crushed alive by 12,000 pounds of wood. I could hear my body cracking, gurgling, and crunching. It felt like my head was going to explode. There was so much pressure. I thought to myself, if this doesn't stop, I'm going to get ripped into 2 pieces and die. I then blacked out.
So now that you've got to experience this space that I'm creating, and if you got a glimmer of light or a bit of courage that you yourself would like to take this stage, you can apply to speak at www.mystorymondays.com, and there's a little link that says apply to speak. Send it in and we'll get you on stage.
Models are on display at Freeway Mazda. New Mazda sedans, crossovers, and SUVs surround the facility, and fully loaded versions occupy the floor of the showroom. At Freeway Mazda, 154th Street and 104 Avenue in Surrey.
Kingsway Sushi is an all-you-can-eat restaurant with a large selection of Japanese and other Asian cuisine. The restaurant is located 5 minutes from Metrotown Centre on the Vancouver side of Boundary and Kingsway.